Welcome to Real Estate Radio Live, an informative and engaging hour discussing everything you need to know about the world of real estate. Your host, 𝗘𝗀𝗁𝗃, provides you with insight and guidance.
5 days a week, and you can listen to us a couple different ways. One is on your radio at KDOW 1220 AM. You could also listen to us live online at KDOW.biz. And the thing we're really excited about is we now have a podcast, and it is growing faster each day. You could go on our website, download the podcast. It's available at iTunes and Google and all those wonderful places. If you want more information about the podcast, it's you go to 𝗟𝗡radiolive.com. That is 𝗟𝗡radiolive.com. That'll give you all the details and information. We're a live show. We love your calls. There's a couple ways you can communicate with my guest, myself today. It's live 1-800 number is 1-800-516-1220. We also have a text line. A lot of people like to text. Just don't be texting while you're driving. That number is 408-838-9060. Most of you know, if you've been following the show for 4 years, that the focus for me and the growth of Real Estate Radio Live has been really the objective is education and information. We want to help you, the consumer, make wise financial decisions in your real estate. How do we do that? We have great guests like we have today. I'll introduce in just a minute. We try to provide you with good content, information ongoing to help you make these wise decisions as a team in the real estate industry. With that, let me invite my guest in today. It's Rainy Hake. She is the Chief Operating Officer for Alain Pinel Realtors. Rainy, good to have you here.
Thank you, Joe. It's great to be here.
Yeah, it's good to be back and chat with you. Finally get you on the radio show. You're a busy lady. It's hard to track you down.
You did a great job.
Thank you. So before we get started, I'm going to have Rainy tell a little bit about herself. But if most of you don't know about Alain Pinel, great reputation, really run a great business, a good group of people. I have an opportunity of working with many different people within Alain Pinel for several different years. And so it's a pleasure today to have you on, Rainy, because we always love to hear about the perspective from someone that's in senior management, someone that's really on a regular basis. I know you are responsible for a lot of people, but at the same time, responsible for making sure that these people have a great place to work and that consumers have a great place to come and do business with you. And there's a lot of responsibilities behind that, for sure. So tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, and then your roles and responsibilities today with Alain Pinel.
Yes. Well, thank you so much again for having me. I've been in real estate for about 20 years now. Before that, I was in international branding and business consulting. And I've been with Alain Pinel Realtors for about 12 years now. And as you mentioned, I have quite a few hats that I wear. Overseeing operations, I oversee marketing, technology, training, strategy, sales, and that creates lots of opportunities, but mostly opportunities to have touch points with our clients and consumers. And our theory is really to create an exceptional customer experience focused on quality at every touch point.
Yeah, great. Well said. And you do have a lot of responsibilities. We'll get into those and some of the great people that work with you and for you. But maybe we get started. Tell us a little bit about the market trends, maybe what you saw in 2015, what's going on today in the industry, and then maybe a little glimpse of what we might see next year.
Certainly. I think 2014 and 15 were both really strong years, both highly strong seller years for most. For the buyers, a little bit more frustrating. But I think that from an overall perspective, my consensus from everyone I talk to is that the Bay Area is the best place to live and work in the world. I just got back from Berlin. I was in an international symposium, and I was listening to people from Panama City and from South Africa and all these beautiful, wonderful places, as well as London and Paris and China, and everybody was just talking about, you're so lucky. And I walked away feeling very blessed for the economy, the real estate life that we have here, as well as the general, very avid weather and lifestyle that we're able to live here.
It's unique, isn't it? I mean, we take it for granted sometimes. And one of the things I love about this radio show is when I interview people, I'm reminded, and you hear the different perspectives, but to live in a place like Silicon Valley and such a beautiful place that you had mentioned, geographically, close to San Francisco, Carmel, Lake Tahoe, Napa, we could go on. And then, of course, there's the business here. I mean, that is the engine that moves and really accelerates a lot of the stuff that goes on the Bay Area. I think it's 75 to 80% of the venture capital comes right here from Silicon Valley in the world.
Correct.
So job opportunities are great. One of the reasons why we have these high home prices, right?
Exactly.
It's a unique place. How does it, I mean, you travel a lot. You just gave us an example of that experience. I mean, what are people's perception of the Silicon Valley from the outside that maybe either visit here or haven't visited here? Is it, my gosh, oh my gosh, I can't believe you guys are in such a wonderful place? What is their perception of this here in Silicon Valley?
I think there's some mystical elements to it. I think people think of Silicon Valley and they idealize it a bit. When you look at the real estate market specifically, you mentioned that there are a lot of what we call like the microclimates that are happening, which are interesting. So, for instance, when you're looking in San Francisco, and that's what the international market typically is looking at. When they think of the Bay Area, they think of first the city, and then they think of Silicon Valley, and don't necessarily even understand the geographic relationship of those. But when you look at San Francisco specifically, you're looking at a marketplace that is only 7 by 7. It's a little floating island with a little peninsula attached, but it also has 40 very unique different neighborhoods and communities within that. The average price point that we've recently seen in the last quarter is about $1.2 million, and that's the most active price point that you'll see in the city.
Wow.
But even within the city, there's a lot of diversity that people don't necessarily know until they jump into getting into the details. So we have a lot of relocation business coming in, and people say, like, I want to live in San Francisco Bay Area, but they don't really, or they'll say, I want to live in San Francisco, but they don't really know what that means. Oftentimes they'll end up settling in the East Bay or in Silicon Valley or along the peninsula, Marin, the wine country. So when you're looking at the city, people think the entire Bay Area, that's what San Francisco is. You know, but me, myself, I live in Santa Cruz on the beach, and that to me is a lovely part of the Bay Area, but not necessarily something that people are thinking about when they're moving to San Francisco as even an option. Yeah,
no, very good point. Price points, I mean, in 2014, 2015, we're still seeing these increases. You know, we keep hearing, of course, this year the rates were supposed to go up a little bit. They came back down a little bit. Now then the latest is maybe the Fed will make a move in December. Certainly we'll see some rates, I think, pretty strongly will finally come up next year a little bit. But this is such a strong, diverse market. What is your opinion on that? Do you think with a small increase in rates, maybe 0.5% or so, that's really going to slow the market down as a component of as we grow here in the years if that were to happen?
Well, it's an interesting dynamic because, as I mentioned before, we are in a seller's market right now, and you've got a lot of frustrated buyers and buyers' agents who are entering the market and then experiencing buyer fatigue and pulling out of the market. So in terms of first-time home buyers, right now is a great time for them to invest because they can afford to. So as the rates go up, it more highly affects those who are needing to borrow a larger portion, who don't have as much to put down. But when you're talking about people who already own in the area, and there's a lot of those, who are wanting to move up, move down, make other lateral moves, it's not as much of a thought point for them when they're making that choice. However, some of the issues that are currently in front of people is that there isn't a lot of that move-up marketplace because the idea is, well, if I sell my house, I don't have any place to move to. And because there's such a tight inventory right now and that restriction of inventory, that's more of a concern for us, I think, than the interest rates, although they all play part of the supply and demand in the market.
That was a good distinction. So who is buying? Let's take these new buyers that are coming into the marketplace. What are you seeing? Who are the new buyers? Who's buying in this? You know, when the average prices are $1.5 million, it's hard to believe the days when the first-time home buyers and the FHA and a lot of that stuff. I mean, and that's a whole other conversation about, you know, the people that can't afford to get in. But who's buying these days? I mean, what are you seeing? Well,
that's a great question. I'm going to look at it in two different perspectives. One, there's the local and the global buyer, which you know, we're surprisingly seeing, even though, you know, CAR numbers just came out, the California Association of Realtors came out and said that they're seeing overall statewide a decrease in the number of international buyers who are coming in.
Really?
But we find in the Bay Area the numbers are about the same as they were in 2014, which for us, in the market price points that we work in, about 30 to 35% of buyers coming in are international buyers, predominantly from China. You know, maybe a few more from Russia this year than we've seen in the past. Europe a little bit, but Asia really dominates the market, especially in the mid to high-end price point range. And when you're looking at that, that's going to be more predominant in San Francisco as a city, the peninsula and Silicon Valley, maybe not as predominant in the East Bay, Marin, or wine country, although we are seeing a lot of people coming in from China who are wanting to purchase in the wine country as well because it's quite a hobby of theirs. But in addition to that, I also think that there's been an expansion of the tech industry from Silicon Valley, now stretching all the way up into San Francisco. So with that, there's been a lot of movement internally from the local perspective. And what I mean by that is we've just recently opened an office in Alameda. Now that there's a ferry that goes from San Francisco to Alameda, there's this huge influx in Oakland in general with, the gourmet ghetto and lifestyle and things happening. So you've got people who now have the opportunity to have a very vibrant lifestyle living in Oakland and maybe working in the city, or living in the city and working in Oakland, where that wasn't necessarily an option a few years ago. And so you're seeing a lot of that migration. That's great.
I mean, this is so much good information. Do you think the international buyers, let's say China, Asia, do they look at it as, my gosh, this is a deal because of the cost of living there? Or are they smart business people and they understand that they want to get their hands on property anywhere in desirable areas, for instance, like the Silicon Valley here?
I think over the last several years, they've really looked at it like it's a deal. I don't think America is on sale as much as it was before because our prices have continued to rise because of the investment that's been coming in. So you've got, investors from China coming in, making all cash offers, making it more competitive for the local buyers, which are driving the prices up, which is great for our sellers. Right. But in so, it's pricing some of our investors, even from China, out of the market slightly. Even with some of the economic issues that you've seen in Europe and China, we're still seeing that there's a big bang for the buck in international investors' dollar as compared to the American dollar. So we still are seeing people investing, but I would say that they're investing more so because they believe that it's a safe investment because of the stability of the United States, and also specifically to the Bay Area because of our great education with our universities. With what we've got going on in terms of lifestyle, weather, all of those positives.
All the wonderful things that go along with it. All right, we're going to have to take a quick break. When we come back, much, much more. Again, we have in studio for the entire hour today. It is Rainy Hake. She is the Chief Operating Officer for Alain Pinel Realtors. If you have any questions for Rainy, 1-800-51, like Rainy that's here to explain to this, it really is working with this topic, this information every single day. It's one thing, we have a lot of real estate agents that come on the show. They're able to really give us a flavor of local markets, what's going on in the Bay Area, different counties, different perspectives. But Rainy gives us a really, a top-end view of what's going on from the international perspective, the buyers that are coming in, why they're coming in, who they're working with, some of the trends there. So if you have any questions for Rainy, 1-800-516-1220, or you could text the live text line, 408-838-9060. Rainy, we do have a text here that someone sent in. So 2 questions here. The first question is it a good time to buy investment property in the Bay Area with positive cash flow? That's the first question. The second one is anything available in the $400,000 to $500,000 range?
Well, those are 2 great questions. First off, I always say that it's always a good market for somebody out there, and it's just a matter of perspective. So from an investment perspective, it is a great time to be investing in real estate in the Bay Area if you can find something with positive cash flow. Obviously, a plus when you're talking about that price range, you're really narrowing yourselves in terms of the opportunities in the communities. Obviously, with the average price points we were talking about in the city, it's about 1.2. In Silicon Valley, it's about 885,000. Bay Area wide, you're looking at about 800,000. So you're really going to have to look in some of the bedroom communities. There's some really great places in the East Bay or even in the South market. Maybe down in Morgan Hill, that you'll be able to find investments within that price point. I know we just recently sold a condo in Santa Cruz in the $500 range that if we would have purchased for a rental, we would have been able to keep. There's a lot of people who are wanting to be in Silicon Valley and have rentals over there for the holiday investment, that type of thing. So there are options out there. The best thing to do is find a really good real estate agent who knows the local market and who can help you walk you through that process.
I agree for 100%. Make sure you find yourself a good real estate agent. And as always, if you need more information or if you want some referrals, let us know. We're happy to do that. And even downtown. I mean, you know, really seeing things are starting to finally take shape downtown. You're seeing for the first time high-tech companies moving down there. My belief is because they have no more choice. They're running out of space in Mountain View and Sunnyvale and all these places. And I'm sure the city's cutting them pretty good deals to move downtown.
Well,
right?
and the city's really pushing for mixed-use space as well. So if they're adding more, you know, the residential and commercial, they're also adding more to that.
Very good. If you have any more questions, that's a great question for Rainy. She is the expert in studio. We have her here for about another half an hour or so. Again, you could either call 1-800-516-1220 or you could text at 408-838-9060. Let's jump back in, Rainy, a little bit about the international stuff. If you could give me an idea or give the listeners a little idea about, you know, whether the international, you mentioned most of them are still coming from China and Asia. When they're coming here, how do they go about trying to find the right real estate company, the right agents to work with, the relationships? Because there's a couple of different barriers, right? There could be language barriers. There could be, you know, who do I want to work with? Who can I trust? For you and I, sometimes it seems, well, that's not a big deal, but it is when you're coming from another country, isn't it?
It is.
Maybe you could talk a little bit about that and how that works.
Yes. I think one of the things to keep in mind is that real estate is and has always been a real estate relationship business. And in so much, it's important to recognize that trust is at the heart of that. Okay. So how do you build trust as a brand or as a real estate agent when you're attracting international buyers or local buyers? And I think that it's also important to understand that you can't be everyone to everything to everybody when you're talking about targeting somebody internationally. So Alain Pinel Realtors is just here in the Bay Area, for instance. We don't have offices even in New York. So how do we expect somebody in China to know who we are? There's a lot of franchise brands who do have offices in other places, but they don't always have interconnectivity for how to communicate and share that information. So what we found was effective. You know, we are members of leading real estate companies in the world, and we're founding members of Luxury Portfolio. That gives us a global reach so that we have Alain Pinel Realtor-like brokers in 60 different countries around the world. They help to give us referrals for people who are coming in. That right there helps to build the trust because it's relationship to relationship in terms of somebody I know knows this. There's also a lot of people who move here who then refer to people back home, and that's a big piece of it as well.
All right, we're going to have to take another quick break. Hold on to those thoughts. We're going to continue when we come back. If you have any more questions for Rainy Hake, Chief Executive Officer, Chief Operating Officer. I just gave you a promotion.
I'll take it.
With Alain Pinel Realtors, 1-800-516-1220. This Hake in studio with us for the entire hour. She is the Chief Operating Officer for Alain Pinel Realtors. And we're talking about a number of different things. Really, the topic in general is the local impact of international investment and in real estate and in San Francisco, I should say, and the Bay Area. But we're going to bounce around a little bit, talk about some different things and how, you know, some of the changing things, how they affect consumers and the way we interact online with technology. If you have any questions for Rainy, 1-800-516-1220 is a toll-free number, or you could text a question in at 408-838-9060. Before we jump into the technology, Rainy, I want to ask you a little bit about, Alain Pinel, you gave us a little overview of him when we started the show. You guys have a great reputation. I'm not just saying that because you're on the radio show today. You really do. I've worked with a lot of your people. There is such a massive competitive marketplace out there. And you guys seem to do a really, really good job to keep that reputation, hire some top-notch people, not only as agents, but like yourself and the people that run the company. There is a perception, which is noticeable, that, you know, you guys do a pretty darn good job, better than most real estate companies, and keeping good people, keeping that reputation. Let's face it, in business, it's difficult to keep a solid reputation when you're, you know, a pretty sizable company for a period of time. What is the formula, so to speak, that you guys have found as a company and the leadership that you see and that you develop within people that makes Alain Pinel tick and, you know, rise above a lot of the others?
Well, thank you for those kind words. I think it really boils down to one word for me, which is quality. Okay. Quality of the agents that we attract quality of the managers, but mostly because we focus on quality throughout everything we do, our offices, our internal policies, and when we're making our decisions, we use that as our beacon of light, and we always go back to it. Is it creating quality for our customer? And it's really about creating an experience. So is this going to be an excellent customer experience if we make this choice? And we really, really emphasize that with our agents at every touch point. And it's sad to say, but there's some brokerages where it's all just about the numbers, who you're bringing through. For us, it's quality over quantity, and not having quotas and those types of things internally allow us the culture and the strategy and the structure to accommodate for that.
Well, and I was talking to one of your agents today in your Los Gatos office, and what's interesting is you kind of mirrored in what she said. I asked her because she had changed companies and recently with both of you guys, maybe for 6 or 7 months. And I asked her, I said, what's the difference? And she was real clear in her explanation. And she said, the leadership and the management, they're training on a regular basis. They care about us. They really want to make us better. They use our skill sets to really grow. In other words, what you just said, her focus, she was saying the same. It was more about developing the talent, the skill, and helping people exceed whatever they wanted to do, than it was, how could we grow the numbers? How could we do better? I mean, all of us need to make a profit. We need to run a business. We know that. But it was clear when I was having that conversation with her that she was giving that same description. She felt that there was a real care and when she came on, and the continual training and the focus on exceeding expectations and being the best you could. So you guys are obviously doing a good job in that area.
Great. Thank you.
Congratulations. We have to take another break here in a bit. But let's get started back a little bit about, and we'll continue on the other side. But technology, there's a lot of changes going on. You and I were talking off air. It's got, we're one of the mortgage industry and the real estate industry seem to be lagging behind in some cases. But especially here we are in Silicon Valley, which is a little embarrassing sometimes. But you have Zillow, you have the big companies online that seem to have been tracking the eyeballs of people, and the statistics show us, I think, 70 or 80% of people first go online before they find an agent, all those things. Give us a little flavor of how that could be changing the marketplace for the consumer and how the way you guys operate business in that type of activity. And then we'll take a break in a bit and we could finish up.
Great. Well, I think that, from a global perspective, there's a lot of cloudiness around how do you actually attract these international buyers, and it's not really that much different than the domestic buyer. As you mentioned, people are starting their search online first. So whether that's the big domestics like the Zillows, the Trulies, the Realtor.coms, or some of the lesser known here domestically, but the 𝗘𝗀𝗓𝗄s and the 𝗔𝗕𝗎𝗀𝗧.com that are happening in China. So it's all part of the same formula.
Okay. All right, we're going to have to take another quick break. When we come back, we're going to continue this great topic conversation. 1-800-51 studio for the entire hour. Just a couple segments left here. Rainy Hake, who is the Chief Operating Officer for Alain Pinel Realtors. The topic today is local real estate, local impact of international investment in San Francisco, on San Francisco and the Bay Area. Just a high-level view. Again, it's great to have someone like Rainy here because we get the high-level view and then of really what's going on in the marketplace, both internationally and how that impacts the Bay Area, which is really important. And if you're a buyer here or if you live here, you should really listen to and try to figure out how that impacts you. As a homeowner, as an investor maybe, or if you're going to be living here or doing business here, who's buying, where are they buying from, and how is it impacting the Bay Area. So thank you for this. This is a lot of good information. Back to the technology part of this business. Let's delve into that a little bit because we are in the heart of Silicon Valley. You talked a little bit about the buyers going to these different sites. You mentioned some of the international activity as well. How is that, I guess, first let's go from the consumer side first, and we could talk about the agent and the real estate firms. From the consumer, now they have all this information at their fingertips. And the younger generations, it becomes so natural. I mean, some of the kids are born with a phone in their hand now, so you can't stop that. Everything's online. Most of everything's online. Everything's mobile. Consumer behaviors. Where do you see that changing? I know maybe there's not a massive change right now, but where do you see the difference there in some of their behaviors in the search and how they find realtors? And then maybe 4 or 5 years from now, do you see how that might affect the way we all do business?
Yeah, I think that's centrally if it's not already, should be on the top of everybody's mind in this business. From our perspective, technology and marketing to some degree, but technology really needs to solve a problem. It needs to create ease. And from a consumer perspective, they have all the information now. And so from a real estate brokerage perspective, we're coming in further down the funnel than we used to. People are coming to us, locally where they've already found their property and they already maybe have financing. And what they need us to do is be their local area expert to walk them through the steps. But if you really look at the way people are searching for real estate, they are going online first, but they're not necessarily, they don't know what a Zillow or a Trulia or a Realtor.com is. Right. They'll just go to Google because that's how they search for everything. Yeah. And they'll just, put in real estate for sale in 𝗥𝗱𝗏. And it's how do you play inside of that world and how do you come up and how are you found in that world? That's so important. And, so many people are concerned about the Zillows of the world taking over and what's going to happen. And I don't really look at them so much as being a direct competitor. If you really want to stay up at night being scared of somebody, Google and Amazon have much more resources to, if you truly look at it, Google is actually the largest real estate company in the world. Yeah. With all the information that they have. So what we do is we really take a 360-degree approach to marketing. We make sure that we are online, but we're also focusing more heavily on mobile. We do PR and we have marketing strategies, but we really are doing it from a global perspective. And it's really important for us not just to be known locally, but to be connecting with people abroad. And mobile first is always how we're designing everything. And it's really about collaboration. Our technology has to allow our customer to have a unique experience based on what they are looking for. And it can't just be us forcing the information on them. IDX search, where you could search for properties anywhere, used to be a really big deal. It's very passé now. Right. And big data is becoming so prominent, but the barrier to that really becomes the consistency of data. And there's lots of new RISO standards and rules that are coming into place as to how data is put together, because you can only make data available to consumers at the lowest common denominator that data is available. Yeah. And so we're hoping that our industry is going to see that the standards need to be raised, and that will be really pushed by the consumer demand for that. Yeah.
One of the things I hear all the time, I'd like to have you address it or answer it or give me your philosophy or opinion on it, is the easy rebuttal, if you will, where most people that have been, I hate to say it, but, I'm in the older generation, the baby boomers as well, but some of the easiest thing for our response would be, technology, it's still about relationships. People want to work with people in relationships. But we got to be careful with that, right? I mean, we have to be careful assuming that it doesn't mean people don't want relationships. It doesn't mean that that's not true in some cases, but you have to be, my opinion, you have to be careful because things are changing. Business is changing. The world is changing. The way people look at things change. The younger generation, the millennials. So it's maybe not so much it's cut and dry, but you maybe try to be ahead of the game and keep yourself educated on what changes are coming ahead.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I mean, I agree that it's a relationship business and it'll continue to be. I mean, I just got back from Berlin. I've got a trip to China planned. I'm coming up here in December. I'm proactively going out there creating relationships for our brokerage to benefit our agents, and that's very important. But as I mentioned, we're being pushed further down the real estate funnel. And if you don't have the opportunity to even create that relationship, then you're really doing yourself a disservice. So what are consumers doing? They're not just going onto Google to search for real estate in 𝗥𝗱𝗏. They're also going on there to search for real estate agents in 𝗥𝗱𝗏 if they don't have a referral. So if you don't show up in the conversation, it's hard to create that relationship. So having a social media presence or having a presence on your agent website isn't just about giving into technology. It's really about having an online conversation and using technology as a collaboration platform to foster those relationships in an effective, efficient way in a world that is so global.
Yeah, well said. And we have to take a break here in a minute or so, and we'll come back. We'll finish up. But one of the other things that I find too, with the real good agents, or really any business in that case, in a business like ours where it's commission based and sells, and people have to like and trust you, is that there's so much more than the sell, right? It's easy to get caught up on the commission, regardless of what we're doing. But if you really focus on taking really good care of that customer and understand that it's a benefit for you to do the best you can during the transaction, after the transaction, even going forward. Some people, once that transaction's over, they forget about them. They don't stay in touch with them. There's so many things connected to the home after that purchase is over.
Exactly.
So much. All right, we're going to take another quick break. When we come back, we're going to finish up. We are moving quick because it's a great conversation and a great guest. Last questions.
RadioLive.com.